Hello, and thank you so much to everyone that's joining the webinar with Yas and I today to learn more about SAVE and what we're actually doing with SAVE in Australia. So thank you for joining. This is going to be quite informal. It's really just Yas and I wanting to connect with you and to share about the journey that we've both been on with SAVE to date and really to talk about how you and your organization can get involved. We are going to have Q&A at the end. We really want to hear from everyone. So yeah, we really hope you enjoyed this session. We'll try to keep it to 30 minutes, but Yas and I, this is a topic we're extremely passionate about. We could probably talk about it forever, but we will try and keep it short. So Ben, if you could pop up our presentation, that would be great. Excellent. So today we're going to speak to you about SAVE, the organization, and also about what we're doing in Australia to promote and enhance our industry's understanding about sustainability in AV. Next slide, Ben, please. So we'll introduce ourselves in a moment. We'll speak about what SAVE is and why it exists, why sustainability matters in AV in Australia, what SAVE certification is all about and what's in it for you, SAVE a Second Life and how we need to look to reuse and repurpose AV equipment at the end of its first life, and the 12 to 18 month goals that Yas and I and the broader SAVE community have started to develop as part of our roadmap. So I'll introduce myself first and then I'll hand over to Yas. So for those that don't know me, my name is Sarah Drysdale and I'm COO and Head of Product at CommBox. I've been really passionate about sustainability for a really long time. Actually, Therese Hall, ran a business together probably 10 years ago, and it was all about sustainable kids fashion. And we were making organic clothes in India and bringing them over here. So it's something that has been close to my heart for a long time. And when I found out about SAVE at ISC a couple of years ago, I immediately put up my hand to become the SAVE ambassador for Australia. So, Yas, over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. So I'm Yas. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Videopro. And I actually call myself a boomerang team member. I was at Videopro a long time ago, back in the 90s, for about 13 years, left the industry for 13 years and bounced back about 18 months ago. And when I had that, I suppose, time away from the industry, I was building and scaling a circular economy enterprise in the renew, reuse, repurpose, re-commerce space, and ultimately diverting millions of kilos of goods from landfill or otherwise waste streams. And so when I returned to Videopro, I started to get a little deep dive on sustainability in our industry. And what I realized is that we were quite far behind in comparison to the industry I had been in and also the IT industry. So naturally, I put my hand up for sustainability and circular economy, the portfolio at Video Pro, but I had a much bigger passion and vision to try to ensure that our whole industry moved forward. And that's when Sarah and I came together and we both traveled over to ISD and started to understand what SAVE can do for our industry and naturally wanted to work collaboratively and collectively, not for our organizations and entities, but for the broader industry itself. We strongly believe that moving forward together is going to scale the capability in sustainability that we can have as a collective ecosystem in AV.
Excellent. Thank you, Yas. So, what is SAVE? SAVE actually started maybe 4 to 5 years ago out of the US. So, Christina is the founder of SAVE, and the US is actually they're so advanced in so many ways, but when it comes to sustainability, and particularly at the moment with the current political environment, they're actually taking a step backwards towards climate, their passion and focus on climate change and sustainability generally. So there has been a massive gap in the US, and Christina wanted to step in and fill that gap, and that is why she started SAVE. So just to make, I guess, sustainability feel more easier for people to understand what the term actually means, SAVE is based on the SDGs, which came out of the United Nations quite a few years ago, with the goal by 2030 to have achieved the 17 sustainability goals that they set. So, So the SAVE team in the US decided to use this as the basis for bringing SAVE to the AV industry. And if you go on SAVE certification, which I'm really hoping a lot of people on this call will put their hand up for, it's all about how your organization will adopt the 17 SDGs to develop a plan towards sustainability. And the thing that's awesome about using the SDGs, and to be fair, Yas knows more about them than I do, but one of the really important things about them is so much more than just recycled packaging
Mm.
or repurposing your AV equipment. It looks holistically at the issues of poverty, women, access to
Mm.
education, and across our entire industry. We actually touch on quite a few of the SDGs collectively. Yas, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I wear the pin. I've been wearing the pin for about 10 years. The SDGs were adopted in 2015 by the United Nations. And the 2030 agenda is really aiming to have those 17 goals. Collectively, they're across peace and prosperity for people and planet. Now, let me make it really clear that sustainability and peace for people and planet does not mean prosperity and profitability. And one thing that sustainability can have, and I've lived and breathed this, is a bad rap for let's just tick the green box. Let's just do and say what we need to do and say to tell people that we're going to be good and do all the green things. What the SDGs really do is provide a foundation to cut through the synergies of all of the goals. And I know that I can speak both in my former role and also the current role I have at Videopro in trying to embed these SDGs into our ecosystem is that it would be highly unlikely and almost impossible to tick every single goals box. And the 17 boxes are up there for you to look at. Our industry, certainly SDG 12 is one that's very probable for us to achieve. Responsible consumption. And SDG 17 is what we're doing right now, partnerships for the goals. How do we as a collective come together to actually embed change and more connection between the environment, social, and economic aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals? The SDG website, and we will provide some notes for everybody after this. And I should also segue that to there is a little question or chat box. Please do put your questions in there as we go. We won't be distracted by them, but getting your questions today helps us ensure that we can deliver the outcomes and outputs for you. But ultimately, becoming familiar with the SDGs and understanding maybe which 2 or 3 your organization and entity can really focus on. There's a really great framework that we can provide that through SAVE and through the SDGs agenda that really help you solidify a foundation for your organization without freaking people out that it's going to distract your BAU and everyday business. So think of the SDGs as your partner to help your business be more sustainable without distracting it from profitability and prosperity.
That's right. So with SAVE, the focus is on education, exactly what Yas was just saying about understanding what sustainability is, working towards SAVE certification, which we'll talk about more on this call, looking at reuse of AV equipment, and then just creating a community, which is what we're doing today. Thanks, Ben. So why is it important for us to have a local community for SAVE in Australia? Well, the answer, I guess, is like somewhat obvious. Australia has different regulations. So I guess what Yap and I sort of did on our journey with SAVE is we went over and we listened to what the global SAVE community is doing. And we immediately recognized that some of that needs to be definitely localized or take a slightly different approach for
Mm.
Australia and our Australian AV industry. And so that's what Yap and I have been doing for the last little bit. It's really just thinking about what's the best way to run SAVE in Australia. And now we're kicking it off really with this call today. But yeah, we need to look at local projects and initiatives that we can run as a community. And, we have a lot of challenges in Australia. Australia experiences some of the worst impacts of climate change, but we also have the biggest challenge with trying to actually reuse AV equipment across our enormous country with such a small population and challenging logistics. So everyone that signs up for the SAVE community today, which is I hope is everyone on this call, yeah, we've got some chunky challenges to take on. But I think just like Yaz says, if we take it with positivity and just real dedication, I think as a community we can make real
Mm.
change. Cool. So sustainability is an issue in Australia. I think, sometimes it's interesting actually. So when we met the SAVE community, there was a couple of people in the community globally that actually suffer from climate change anxiety, where they actually experience genuine anxiety for fear about what will happen to the planet as our climate continues to change. And I guess I've experienced some of that. So sometimes even I like to kind of stick my head in the sand and pretend it's maybe not an issue, or, do I really need to do something about it? And in Australia, we really do have an issue. We do generate millions of tons of waste, and millions of tons of e-waste as well. So we really do have, I think, an obligation in our industry to think about how we can try and stop some of that waste going into landfill and getting it
Mm.
repurposed and ensuring longer use while still making a profit doing it. Yas, is there anything you wanted to touch on there?
Yeah, Sarah. I mean, circular economy is a much more broadly used term these days, but 10 years ago, we were really introduced to it here in this country. Um, you know, on the back of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and other entities globally, like Save, who are really trying to move the needle. One thing that is really important is, this is not designed. Sustainability and circularity is not designed to convert your business into a completely different view. We moved from linear, which is your take, make, waste economy, to a circular economy, which is you take, make, and remanufacture, renew, repurpose, as I said before, with some of those other words. And at the end of the chain is recycle. Now, we can all be forgiven for thinking that recycling is actually us being sustainable. But in January 2025 in Australia, it was the first cohort required to actually comply with Australian mandatory climate related reporting, financial reporting. So CFOs are now going on this journey of actually needing to um, report on sustainability outcomes and climate risks and emissions in scope 1, 2, and 3. And what I love about this is these bigger companies, which are the group 1 companies, they're typically your ASX listed large private companies and high volume companies like $1 billion in assets or $500 million plus in revenue. And some of these people are our customers, and they're now exposed to these mandatory reporting requirements that have them now needing to understand where are the products coming from and what are we doing with them at the end of life. And these are the questions that circularity and the circular economy can answer. And this is where we can really double down as an ecosystem and industry to ensure that, and I'm looking at a screen in this room right now that I'm sitting in the city. It's a big, large screen. It's probably close to its end of life. Well, what do we do? Do we just throw that in a skip bin, send it off to an e-waste manufacturer or remanufacturer? But what do we actually know from that data? Do we capture the data? Do we understand what happens? And we now need to be able to provide information to the companies that are working with us, but also information in the future to the government when we all become part of that mandatory reporting. So group 2 and group 3 companies will follow on. Again, as part of the materials after today, we can provide you, once you are part of the SAVE community, we can provide you with access to all of that information to help you take your teams on the journey. But ultimately, as Sarah said right at the start of this slide, is it's about education.
Excellent. Thanks, Ben. So AV is obviously, just like Yas has touched on, is part of the e-waste challenge that our industry faces. So a lot of businesses like CommBox, we need to contribute to the National TV Recycling Scheme, which tries to ensure that some of the TV, the e-waste is appropriately recycled. And there's also social impacts part of that. So a lot of the recycling facilities support recruiting people that find it difficult to find other types of jobs. But really, just like as I said, it still ultimately finds its way somewhere not good eventually. So we want to see now if we can try and keep a lot of that out of the land waste. And we have some initiatives already up and running in SAVE where we're trying to do that. And we want to share more about that in a moment. Next slide, Ben, please. So when we think about why sustainability in AV matters, and then Yas did briefly touch on this, we need to look at every part of the process for designing, right from design all the way through to end of life. So when we're thinking about designing AV systems, we need to design them with sustainability in mind. So not over specifying AV rollouts, making sure that we're thinking about what's going to happen at the end of this product's life, right at the time that we're designing the room or thinking about what products to put in. So partnering with vendors like CommBox, where we're starting to develop and roll out our end of life programs, is really important. And then when you're looking at procurement, it's asking the vendors about their use of energy, repairability, packaging, warranty, and take back options. So at the moment, when we talk about safe certification, at the moment, there's three hardware vendors globally that are safe certified. That's Crestron, they were the first one, CommBox was the second, and Shaw was the third. So when you choose brands like ours, it means that we have committed to having a very clear sustainability policy. So looking for that from your vendors is really important. Also, looking at the operating of your AV equipment, making sure that all the power scheduling is used, automation is used, low power modes to reduce energy use. And then also looking at renewing, so reusing fit for purpose assets before replacing them. And then using certified recycling and auditable disposal pathways if there is no reuse option available at the end.
Mm.
Yes. I mean, this is just a quick walkthrough about how
Yeah.
sustainability touches all parts of the
Mm.
design, procurement, and end of life process. Is there
Yeah.
anything extra there you'd like to add?
Yeah, and timely, a question just came up from Janie that I'll answer on the fly with your question as well there, Sarah. One of the biggest difficulties is always the commercial. Like, how do we? It's so easy just to grab a product, throw it in a skip bin, take it away. The challenge is there is no way. It gets buried, and one day in the future, I'm sure future generations will laugh at us that we've got so much technology buried in our landfills. Um, but the operational overhead and the cultural change is really difficult. I was fortunate to start a business and scale a business that was all about this. We would literally take back products and um, disassemble them and understand the repairability and capture data at a really early phase and stage. And so I've been fortunate to also sit around tables where policy didn't exist and now it does exist, trying to influence government. And what we're seeing is this collision where businesses like ours and our industry can't embed different business models and still function in flow operationally as an entity. So what we're starting to see is social enterprises that are commercial social enterprises partnering with organizations like ours and industries like ours, where those social enterprises actually rely on the feedstock and or the circularity of our products as their supply chain. So you think about us taking virgin materials and virgin products from vendors and partners who are often using non-virgin materials now in their manufacture process, which of course is amazing. But what we're seeing is this new recycling where we're not throwing it away or stripping it back, but we're actually seeing these products repaired and then renewed and then repurposed through these middle entities that are your social enterprises. And one example I can talk about in Queensland is a place called Substation 33. It's a social enterprise that operates with purpose, and we supply chain them our e-waste, let's call it. But instead of turning it into e-waste, they're actually innovating and creating new startups and entities within their own ecosystem in Logan, where brands are building products and manufacturing new materials from the very materials that are coming out of our projects. So it's the wonderful thing is that there's not necessarily a national footprint solution to solve how we can operationally with overheads and culturally make these changes. But the wonderful thing about the SDGs is that we're creating local jobs in local communities. And so a company like Videopro can supply chain Substation, who then supply chains innovations. And I know one company that came out of that is a company called Powerwells, and Powerwells are actually manufacturing and delivering light to Indonesian villages now from the very waste pulled out of our screens. And they have CNC cutters and all sorts of manufacturing now at Logan that takes the screens and turns those into the USB charging devices to put light in these Indonesian countries. So the way we do it is partnerships, of course, but not necessarily trying to create innovative sub businesses within our businesses when we know that culturally there are smaller entities out there desiring the capability to have access to our products. So the commercials really come into their partnerships with us so that it's not at a prohibitive cost to take action. And there's so many more stories like this that we can share. And I'm conscious of time today, and I know we've got, say, 8 or 9 minutes left. What I'd really like to be able to do, Sarah, is continue the conversation around the certification and what that looks like for brands like ours and those on the channel today, and then maybe move into some questions. We can also share the slides with everybody after today as well.
For sure. So we'll jump over this one, Ben. I think we all know Australia has a way to go with circularity, and Yas has touched on that a little bit. All right, let's speak about SAVE certification. What is it and what might be in it for you? So this is one of the pillars of SAVE as a global organization, is where they work. So to be Yas and I working with your local Australian business to develop a SAVE certification plan. And what that's about is working with your leadership team. And yes, it needs your leadership team, and everyone needs to be on board and supportive of this plan because it actually needs to get implemented and reported back on. But we work together in a fun workshop style format where we take you through the SDGs. And as a leadership team, you'll be working out which goals of the 17 goals are relevant and relatable for your organization. And then you work towards developing a plan and a series of commitments to improve the sustainability of your organization. What I really like about this is it's not unachievable. It's not like other certifications where you get a 50,000 page rule book and you've got to tick a whole lot of boxes. What we truly believe is important at SAVE is that you just start. Like taking smaller steps is better than doing nothing at all or just feeling so blocked that you don't do anything. So the idea is you attend the 1-day workshop. As a leadership team, you might finish it in that day, but more likely you need to go back to your organization and speak to your teams and work out how you could operationalize some of the ideas you have to turn yourself into a sustainable organization. You submit the plan back to SAVE. It goes through a review process, and then the team will let you know if you're SAVE certified or not. And then in 12 months, you need to report back on your progress or let us know what changes you would like to make to your plan in order to remain SAVE certified. So not scary, not too overwhelming, but it absolutely needs commitment at the top levels of your organization. Yes?
Yeah. And what I like about that is it's not a box ticking. Like I certainly wouldn't sign up personally for anything that's a box ticking because it just doesn't feel authentic and true when you take it to market. I feel like it might come across as like, oh my gosh, a whole day. But the reality is that this is an investment to ensure that our industry doesn't fall behind. It's not necessarily about just you and your team. It's about our industry and the ecosystem of what we all deliver to market. And it helps our customers feel that trust and transparency about us delivering something that's unified us globally. And that's really where, both Sarah and I put our hand on hearts, and I'm really happy to be representatives and a part of this. But it's not just about us. We also meet monthly with a larger cohort of people who are equally passionate and committed. And this isn't just about the yap, it's actually about execution as well. We really do want to ensure that we're not just having high level conversations, but we are on the ground delivering as well. And the wonderful thing about circularity, sustainability, and everything we're doing is we don't have all the answers today, but if we can create the connections, then we can start to discover what those answers are tomorrow. And each entity and organization will find their own local impact partners to then be able to deliver on their individual deliverables, but ultimately to ensure that we're all connected with the SDGs and those outcomes. Sarah, there's been a question here as well from Maria.
Yeah, about being
certification.
individual. Yeah. Not at the moment, but it's actually kind of a cool idea. I think we'll kind of take that back to our safe
Yeah.
community and think about how we can do that. And just on another note, like what's in it for you? Procurement teams within government and different areas are starting to hear about SAVE. I have had the opportunity to speak to people about it, and they are starting to understand that looking for organizations with a SAVE certification, just like Yas says, does fill them with a greater level of trust around knowing whether that organization is going to do the right thing during the design and end of life process. All right, next slide, Ben, please. Okay, we've touched on this a little bit, that it's a one-day workshop and they're the different steps. Let's go to the next one. Okay, save a second life. Yas has spoken about this, but actually, I just want to take a minute to call out one of the members we have in our Save community, and that is TAG. TAG are an incredible organization. Their commitment to sustainability has, I think, probably from the time they were founded. And I don't want to speak too much on their behalf, but we will be sharing a video to this group after of some of the things that TAG is doing. So their entire fleet is electric vehicles, and at their warehouse, they have opened it up not so much for screens yet, but for other types of AV equipment can be sent there at the end of an installation and be repurposed by their team and broken down and safely and appropriately recycled. Because just 'cause an organization says they recycle e-waste, there's many different types of recyclers, and we really need to make sure that we're using R2 certified recyclers where possible. But yeah, we will share more about what TAG is doing. They are incredible. It's just a coming from the kindness of their heart that they're offering this to the wider AV industry, and we will speak more about that or share more information about that in due course. Yes, this is your passion. Anything you want to add?
I just feel that that's a tag is a great example of partnerships for the goals right there and then. Under the hood, exposing their work and being able to ensure that it can be an inspiration for the broader market. And I know that other brands are doing the same sorts of things. I mean, we do a lot of Logi stuff, and I know they're using non-virgin materials in their manufacturing process now. There are brands that are really passionate about ensuring that they have visibility of the products outside of that initial procurement phase. So, certainly stand by and continue to be involved in this as it continues to evolve. And,
Yeah.
Gone are the days where secondhand was second best. There are a lot of entities, institutions, and in particular, organisations in regional Australia who are begging and desiring very strongly Second Life products to be distributed with warranties, with support,
Yeah.
and manufacturers have really got their eyes open on ensuring that they can do that well beyond the initial life cycle of a product.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think that's where I want to call out another member of the SAVE community, and that's Kira Services, who works very closely with CommBox to repurpose our screens out into First Nations remote communities. So our screens will go out to First Nation schools, local community halls, and also into Aboriginal health centres. So yeah, we're really proud of that initiative. And again, it takes end users to be willing to allow us to come along actually and repurpose their equipment too. So we've had some really incredible private schools, particularly in the CommBox network, that have taken really good care of their interactive screens. And then we've been able to, yeah, give them a really long life out in rural communities that just would never have access to this kind of technology without programs like this.
Absolutely. And I'm conscious, Sarah, of time. We're starting
Yeah.
to hit the big we've got
Yeah.
about a minute or two to go. And we will share our details. You can
Yeah.
stay in touch with us. And ultimately, what we're looking for is to continue the conversation, the collaboration, and the connection
Yeah.
for sustainability and circularity across our industry so that we no longer have the sentiment of being far behind, but instead we can design solutions that allow us to be leading those market changes.
Yeah, and I think that's what the next slide might be about. It's how everyone on the call can get involved. So just
Yeah.
before we go to questions,
Mm.
um, Yeah, maybe yeah, that's it. So, once a month, the SAVE community meets on a Thursday. It's our chance to get together, hold ourselves accountable, go through our action items, and work towards our 18 to 24-month roadmap. Anyone and everyone is invited to be part of that. You just need to have a passion and a little bit of time. So you're all welcome to that. We'll share the information about it. I would love everyone's business on this call to become SAFE certified. Again, we'll share the information and the flyer on that. Supporting Second Life, we'll share the information about Tag, but also once you're in the community, we just ping each other. Hey, I've got an install, a defit coming up. Can anyone in the community repurpose any of this? So it is already happening within our community. We just need to extend it further. And we will start to share more about what's working out with the broader AV industry. But this is co-opetition is what this
Yes.
is all about, and partnerships for the goals. It doesn't matter whether you're a hardware vendor, an AV integrator, we all just need to get together and make this stuff happen. We're definitely stronger together.
I love that
Cool.
you slipped that co-opetition word in there, Sarah. It's
Yeah,
one of
we
my
have to.
favorites.
Yeah. And just on that, I guess one of the things that, and I know we're out of time, but for Australia, CommBox is representing the SAVE Hardware Manufacturers Council. So I'll be working alongside Crestron, Shaw, and other screen manufacturers to try and make sure globally at a hardware level, we're also doing everything we can to support sustainability in our industry. Cool. So Q&A, Yas, do you think?
I think that there was a comment here that I was just thinking questions along the way and
Yeah.
trying to answer them along the way as well. Eamon's just asked maybe a longer conversation at another time for Turtle AV as a manufacturer with offshore factory and supply chain. And this is what we love to hear. Like,
Yeah.
we absolutely will provide time and energy and capability to ensure our community and industry connects on all things sustainability and circularity. The only other thing I would add, Sarah, is you said before, as long as you've got passion, we also welcome the pessimists. So please don't
Yeah,
feel like you
it's
have to,
true, it's
you
true.
don't have to have a passion. We love the conversation, and you can have a considered approach with minimal energy and or interest, but still this is the direction our industry needs to head in, whether we're happy about it or not. And we will welcome those with passion as much as those with a pessimistic view, because that's how we can create a better outcome for all.
Yes. Any other questions before we wrap up?
Mm.
No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Look out for your inbox. The CommBox team will be sending through all the things that we've promised on this call, and we really, really hope to hear from you soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.